Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Hoops with Noops. Of course, I am Alex Noops Christensen, and thanks to the fine folks at FTN, I'm here to help you through tonight's NBA slate, try to share my bets, help you understand all the games and what might be going on tonight. But again, thank you so much to the folks at FTN. They make all this happen. If you haven't already signed up for it, it is an excellent group of products. There is special data, proprietary data, stuff you can only get at FTN. Great tools that help you build same game parlays in a way that you can actually be betting things that are plus EV and have a little bit of an edge. Other tools to help you understand different props, great fantasy stuff, a lot of really good content and bet picks from other experts. And of course, you get into that FTN Bets Discord. I mention it often because it is a really great community. A lot of sharp people in there on the FTN side, as well as some of the participants. Some of our members are really sharp, and there's a lot of good conversations, extra picks. You get all my stuff as quickly as possible and every day of the week. Hoops with Noops is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. But if you want everything on Wednesday, on Saturday, Sunday, and even all my player props, which I wait till a little bit closer to tip off to share, you got to get into that FTN Bets Discord. Hopefully you took the chance to get that great discount we ran for all of March. But don't worry, take a look at the banner down below. Still a chance to get in there at a slightly better price. Use the code clicking down there below. But thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. FTN does a lot of free content, and that's why you're watching right now. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. You get all the stuff that rolls out, pretty much a few things daily. Mean Streets by Chris Meany, an excellent show. He's crushing the NHL season. Other content, guys giving out their props and things. Just a ton of free valuable stuff here. So subscribe to this channel. Give me a thumbs up. That helps FTN, helps me. And if you have any questions, suggestions, ideas of your own, I always love talking basketball. And if you don't want to DM me on Twitter at _Noops, put them down below in the comments here. That always helps the video. And I check every night and try to get back as quickly as possible when people do leave stuff there. So again, any thoughts, questions, other bets maybe I didn't talk through that you want to hear about, dump it below in the comment section and I'll be sure to get back to you. Now, on to the business of basketball. The NBA, we're almost done. There's just 2 weeks left of games. Everybody has about 10 or less games left to play. The standings are starting to take some shape. The gaps between teams are getting to be a little bit bigger, but there's still some pretty tight races. And tonight's slate, very interesting. Just 6 games, but a little taste of everything. We have a potential playoff series preview. We have a game that is all but certainly going to be one of the first games in the play-in tournament. We have games with teams with really questionable motivation. We'll talk about a couple teams tonight that I just have to cross off because I really don't know what's going on there. And as always, it's the end of the year. We do have some games with 2 bad teams, but there is value to be found. It's a good time of the year to be cautious. Again, motivations are questionable. Injury nonsense is an all-time high. If there was ever a time to lower your bet size, to limit your number of bets, it would be now. But that doesn't mean there isn't any value. And as much as we hate watching bad teams, sometimes those are the one to bets. With that in mind, we've got 6 games tonight, 1 game that you might have figured out already, which I'm betting, 5 others that I'll explain to you and not for Noops, where I just try to give you an understanding of my projections, what I'm expecting from the game, and what has me uncertain enough to make a bet or keeping me from making a bet, or maybe there's a plan for something later. But let's get started with the good news. I did find a bet. Unfortunately, it's in this game. The Memphis Grizzlies go to Detroit to play the Pistons. The Pistons are 2-point favorites with a total of 216. Detroit had an interesting couple of weeks kind of during the middle of the season. Well, actually a couple of weeks ago, they were able to win 3 or 4 games. They were covering, keeping things close, because they had done, the hard work, if you will, of losing basketball games, and enough so that they have had the worst record all season, which means they have the best odds for the number 1 draft pick. For a team like this, the only real way to acquire a star is with a draft pick, either picking at number 1 and getting a star or finding a way to move that to a team that's willing to give you a great player back. Now, the tough part about that is you still want to try to instill winning habits in your young players. You want to find a way to lose games, but also make sure they're still playing hard and trying to play winning basketball. And Detroit took advantage of that. They were the rare situation where they had basically lost enough games where they locked up those number 1 odds. and were really pushing their guys hard. You saw Jaden Ivey playing good, Kate Cunningham, some of his best basketball, but injuries start to seep in here. Not just stuff to support guys like Oscar Thompson, who's out tonight, Simone Fontecchio is out tonight, Isaiah Stewart, who was out for, I believe, the rest of the season, but their best player, the best and most talented, valuable guy in the locker room, Kate Cunningham, hurt his knee a couple weeks ago, and they've been really cautious, as they should be. At the end of the season here, again, you want to try to get these guys winning, but at the same time, you don't want to risk a more serious injury that will affect next season. So they've been really careful with Cade. He's questionable tonight, has played just about every other game, but whether he plays here or not, given the injuries to other guys, given just how poor this roster is, I want to read off a couple names that they've been playing, because a couple of these guys, again, I don't follow the Pistons too closely, but I just learned, and apologies to these guys if I mess up their names here, Tosan Evbuamon, Chimize Metu, and Marcus Sasser. I knew who Marcus Sasser was. I just knew, well, I don't know who he is. He's a basketball player. I think he played in college and has been floating around the NBA, but those other two guys I just heard of, I don't really know who they are. They've been playing 30-plus minutes for this team. It's a really bad roster. If Cade is out, they're the worst team in the NBA. If Cade is in, they're probably the worst team in the NBA, which means they shouldn't be favored, even at home, over anybody, especially the Memphis Grizzlies, who I make 3-point favorites in this game. The Grizzlies have set what I assume is a record. This was hard to look up, but the Grizzlies have had 45 different starting lineups in 70 games this year. 45 different groups of starting players in 70 games. That's a different starting five every 1.6 games. That is unbelievable turmoil and really tough for any team. However, Memphis has one of the best front offices in the league. They have a strong management structure, a really good coach in Taylor Jenkins, and they have been a team that has drafted well and developed young talent. John Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., Brandon Clark, the best players on this team were drafted and developed in Memphis. They have a deep roster. They've gotten good minutes out of guys. And really what it is, it's a structure that allows young players, guys that really wouldn't get minutes for other NBA teams, to come in and play winning basketball. Now, they don't win a lot of games, but they've been much better all season than some of the worst teams in the NBA, have covered at a fairly good rate. And it's a team of, again, young guys who are getting their chance. It's a really good recipe for a highly motivated team that's pushing hard at the end of the year. We've also seen them get a little bit of injury of luck lately. Jaren Jackson Jr. is healthy. Brandon Clark is healthy. That gives them two very good players. Without Cade Cunningham, probably the two best players in this game. Even with Cunningham, I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is the best player in this game. Taylor Jenkins is the best coach. Overall, this is the best roster. And like I said, a team that knows how to play. There's a system in place. They play the same way pretty much every game, no matter who's there. Obviously, it works better with Morant, Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart, and all the guys that are missing, but it's still a pretty solid team and a roster that is much better than the Pistons. Again, I have them 3-point favorites. Plus 110 is great. Any money line price with a plus in front of it is a fantastic bet, in my opinion. I know it's the Grizzlies, and as crazy as it sounds, we're going to bet on the Grizzlies tonight, but it's against the Pistons. I mean, come on, somebody has to lose. I think it's going to be Detroit. Really like Memphis tonight. Let's go through the other 5 games quickly. Again, just trying to explain to you what I think, what my projections are, and why I'm avoiding these games, maybe betting them later, but with tonight's slate, it's really mostly cross-offs. We'll start with the Portland Trailblazers, who go to the Orlando Magic. The Magic 16.5-point favorites in a game with a total of 209.5. We are really on the edges here in terms of, projections here. It's an odd situation where a team can win by as many as 17 points in a game with only 210. I was looking back earlier this season. There has been 299 games this year where a team has won by 15 points or more. The average points in that game is 228. Now, that's a very simple number, and obviously you have to do a lot of adjusting for pace, style, and stuff like that, but it's really odd. I mean, it's to cover that many points scoring so little is just crazy, but we saw Orlando do this just 2 nights ago. Saturday, they beat the Memphis Grizzlies 118-88. That's a 30-point margin of victory with a total of just 206. It's just really hard for me to project this game. I mean, Orlando, if this gets to be a blowout, we could see the pace quicken at the end of the game, which is always a bad recipe for an under. At the same time, I don't know how you trust this Portland team without Anthony Simons, without Malcolm Brogdon, basically no shooting to score even 90 points, let alone the 96, 97 you probably need to get this total over. I just don't know what to do here. I'm not ready to trust the Magic to lay this many points. Again, given how slowly they play and how comfortable they'll be just to win by 12 or 13, basically be up double digits the whole game and not even get close to this. At the same time, I'm not betting Portland. They're just a terrible team. They have covered. Again, if you really have to have a wager here, which you don't, I would lean towards the Blazers plus the points, but just of a mess of a game. Speaking of messes, the Charlotte Hornets host the Boston Celtics. The Hornets 17-point underdogs, a total of 218 and a half. I've said in this piece, I'm not sure if I got into a video version yet or one of the written, but for some reason my model just really likes the Charlotte Hornets. Now, it doesn't think the Hornets are a great basketball team, but generally finds value in betting them despite the fact the Hornets are 3-7 against the spread in their last 10 games and have generally been a bad team. I think what my model sees is a team that's had pretty good defense and just enough offensive efficiency to keep games close. But what it struggles to see, and an adjustment I'll probably have to make over the offseason, is how much of that comes during blowout time. How much of the positivity for Charlotte offensively comes when they're already down 25, 30 points. So got to go back and adjust that. I'm really going to avoid Hornets games as a result. And at the same time, the Celtics, yes, they're playing everybody. They've been winning games by margin, but Missoula has said several times they're using these games in situations like these to try stuff out, to experiment with schemes for the postseason. We saw them lose 2 games against the Hawks, again, trying kind of interesting things defensively there. So I can't trust Boston as talented as they are. I mean, they could really mess around and win this game still by 25 plus points. But again, a lot of questions about them. I really don't trust my handicap and projections here for Charlotte, so have to pass on this game. Another game that's an easy pass for me. The Brooklyn Nets have no reason to win. They are not going to make the playoffs. They are 5.5 games behind the Hawks. They basically have to win out, and Atlanta would have to lose out to get to even the 10th spot. At the same time, they have no reason to tank. They don't own their draft pick. The Houston Rockets do. So there's no reason to win. There's no reason to lose. It's a team full of guys that have been in every trade conversation for the last year and a half. Just no idea what to understand. Oh, that's right. They have an interim head coach. They got their head coach fired at the All-Star break, and the new guy still can't get away to basically get them to play. But from time to time, they put up a lot of threes. They go in and they win a game, outright. They beat the Bulls the other night comfortably. I just don't know what to do here. Indiana, a very good team. They're starting to get better and better, but I can't trust them again to cover such a big number, knowing how bad their defense can be and how many threes they can let up. There's just too much potential for variance here. I don't know what to do. I have to pass on this game. This is the potential playoff preview I was talking about. We'll see what happens in the standings. It would be really fun to watch these teams play. And this is a great game to remind me of why I have a model. I basically built a model as a way to be a consistent, reliable tool based on data that just sort of checks what my gut feels. I watch a lot of basketball. I think that I have a good eye for it. I understand matchups, but at the same time, I need to make sure that the data and the market opinion agrees with kind of what I'm seeing in general, unless I do really have something clear that I think they're missing. And I think about this game, New Orleans should crush this Phoenix team. The Suns really poor defensively, especially at the rim, and struggle with big physical teams like New Orleans. Zion Williamson, Jonas Valanciunas should be able to do whatever they want in the paint tonight. But I look at my model. I have the Suns favored in this game by a couple points here. They open as favorites. New Orleans has been bet here. So I just don't know what to do. I mean, I start to look at it. Phoenix really is solid offensively. And one of the interesting things about them, they have a good offensive rating, but at a slow pace. That means they're efficient in the half court. They're efficient in playing grind out basketball, which is what New Orleans wants to do and what makes it so hard to play them for other teams. But again, not for Phoenix. Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, all these guys can score in the half court efficiently, and they're happy to play a slow pace and just let the shooting percentages win this game for them. So again, my gut thinks New Orleans can win. My model likes Phoenix here. Should be a great game. I'm going to watch it closely, but just don't see any value in it. The Atlanta Hawks go to Chicago to play the Bulls. The Bulls 2-point favorites, the total of 221 and a half here. Speaking of teams that make no sense, let me present to you the last 4 games of the Chicago Bulls. I just want to make sure I get this right because it's an absolute mess and confusion. They lose to the Washington Wizards. Yes, those Wizards outright at home. I believe Kyle Kuzma and Tyus Jones were even missing in that game. Washington worse than they normally are. They then go to Indiana and beat the Pacers by 26. Go to Brooklyn, lose to the Nets, as I mentioned, by 17 points, and then go to Minnesota in their last game and beat the number 1, number 2 seed Western Conference contender, Minnesota Timberwolves, again, in Minnesota. What is this team good? Is it bad? I just no clue what to expect from them. At the same time, the Hawks, everyone's asking, are they better with Trae Young? I think the more important question is, are they worse without him? And I think the answer to that is pretty clearly yes. They've been just as good as they were with Trae Young, even better in some ways with just Dejounte Murray on the floor. I think that is the more important question if you're trying to figure out the Hawks and what they do going forward. They've been playing better. Initially I thought this was an under spot, but the Hawks have finally got back to playing a pretty quick pace here. Their last couple totals have gone over pretty comfortably. And this matchup, I believe, has gone over at least three, if not two, if not all three times they've played this season. Just too much unknown for me here. I can't trust the Bulls. I don't know what to make of them. The Hawks could win this game. They could lose this game. I could see it being a slow, ugly under game. Or again, if Atlanta can run, we've seen Chicago happy to run with them. Maybe it's an over spot. I basically just made a light case for every single bet you could make, which means we should make no bets. That said, the bet we should make is on the Memphis Grizzlies. I know picking the Memphis Grizzlies to win at such low odds may seem crazy, but don't worry, folks. They're playing the Pistons, an even worse team, and they might be without Cade Cunningham. I think this is a good bet if Cade plays. I think it's a great bet if Cunningham misses here. So with all due respect to him and his knee, fingers crossed, let's hope he rests. I think we're fine anyway. Give me the Grizzlies tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. As I said, would love if you subscribe to this channel. Give me a thumbs up and dump a comment below with any questions, other thoughts, maybe other bet ideas you have. Love talking hoops. It's part of the reason it rhymes with Noops, I imagine. Best of luck. I'll be back in written form tomorrow. Another video on Friday. And as always, floating around in the FTN Bets Discord. So sign up. There's that 10% offer below. We'll see you soon.